Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Superficial Spirit. Thanks so much for joining me again on my show. I always wanted to be a talk show host, and now I'm a podcast. Oh, okay. A podcast. It is early on Sunday. Actually, it's not even early. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I've had a bunch of coffee, so there's no real reason for me not to be able to speak, honey. Yeah, thanks again for joining me. I'm excited to be here as usual. Today I am talking to a hurricane of a person, somebody that is truly, truly a force of nature. I talk a lot about my experience in nightlife and how influential that was for me. Also, just the idea of nightlife and how I was so called to that community. Before I ever went to a club, spending time reading about celebrities going to nightlife, hearing about places like Studio 54 and the club kids in New York, and how all of these incredible, unbelievable people came out of these parties. It's hard to, before you go to a club, you're just like, wow, what must happen at those parties to create such amazing moments or amazing people. And when I turned 18 in Calgary and I went to a club for the first time, I was like, this is where I belong. Like, without a doubt, this is where I belong. The first club I ever went to was called Detours. It was a gay club in Calgary, and it was dark, it was dirty, it was a kink night on like a Wednesday. And I remember I went in and they were playing this really, really intense techno remix of Christina Aguilera Dirty. And I got like a triple rum and coke, and all of these men who were like definitely double my age were groping me, and I was sort of like, dancing and just feeling like, yes, this is definitely the place I need to be. I felt like I could finally express myself in a way that I couldn't in high school or just socially. I mean, I was always pretty confident on the outside. Doesn't mean I didn't have insecurity or anxiety. But I found that nightlife was a way for me to push myself even further. I definitely blossomed at the club because I found other people who were just as obsessed as I was with celebrities and with creating a fantasy and with becoming a star. And that inevitably ended up being a gateway for my spirituality. I mean, I remember my dad died when I was young, and I was always curious about God. And I do have memories of me praying, and I do have memories of, I went to church with some friends who were Christian. So I was always curious and believed that there was something out there, that there was a power greater than myself. And when I got to the club and I started exploring with the type of person that I could be and realized that there was a whole world out there that I could influence, the club nightlife was the first place that I got to practice that belief, where I could actually embody my dreams and see what happened when I did that, where I got validation for doing the things that I love, for performing, for trying to be a socialite, for being a crazy club kid, for going to the extreme. This nightlife is a place where people love that shit. And so I cannot say enough how important my time in nightlife was, because it really helped shape the person I was, good or bad. Obviously, when you're in an environment that is based on illusions and drugs and alcohol, it's easy to lose control and lose sight of reality. But there is some value and beauty and art when you let yourself explore those quote unquote darker areas. When you can push yourself to the extreme with people that you love, it doesn't feel like it's extreme. You just feel like you're living life. I mean, for my entire 20s, I was like, I can't believe this is my life. I mean, I've just been able to experience so many amazing things. And even though I am not a huge celebrity, even though I didn't become a huge pop star, I do feel like I lived my dreams. I do feel like I'm a person who can confidently say my dreams came true, because in nightlife and in Vancouver, I was able to live that fantasy. There was nobody around me I mean, if you were around me in Vancouver when I was really having a moment back then, even in Calgary before I went to Vancouver, you would know that there was nothing you could say to me to crack that belief that I was a fucking star. And that created a reality. And so now looking back, I have a lot of fond memories, and I feel like it was a very special time for me to explore and, yeah, make my dreams come true. So if you're curious about nightlife, or if you are, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with nightlife now that we have COVID, but I don't regret anything. And my guest today, honey, she knows. She knows about the club. I don't even know how to describe her. She is definitely a force, like I said before. She is a star in her own right. People know her all across Canada. She releases music. She does documentaries. She's huge on social media. She's outspoken. She parties. And she is somebody that was pivotal in my own journey. Just knowing her had an effect. Like, just being around her, you feel like, holy shit, who is this person? And she's a leader in a lot of her in a lot of ways. And I am so grateful that I get to count her as a friend, and finally gotten her on the podcast. Jeez Louise, it was hard to schedule this, honey. But she's here today, and if you don't know her, well, buckle in, honey, because you're about to. And I'm really excited that she's here. Please welcome Quanah fucking Style. Yes.
Hey.
How are you, babe?
Oh my God, I'm so good. How are you?
Good. You look great.
Thank you. It was all that plastic surgery.
Just a little touch up?
Oh yeah, and I slept last night.
Oh my God, good. I was going to say, how was your night?
It was chill. I actually was watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
didn't realize, like, I love that show, but I didn't realize, like, how actually attached to it I was or something. Either that or it was, like, really good editing. It was the HBO special. Bitch, I cried 4 times.
What? You
Yeah, you
cried?
have to watch it and then let me know if you think it's because of the editing or if I'm just or if it's the hormones.
I remember I remember watching Fresh Prince, but I don't think I had an emotional connection. Like Full House I did, but when they did the reunion, the Olsen twins weren't on it, so I didn't really give a fuck.
Oh my God, I love Mary Kate and Ashley. I watched all their movies growing up.
I know, me too. They were fucking awesome. I'm so happy that I get to see you. I've been wanting to talk to you on the podcast for so long.
I know, I'm finally here, bitch.
The last time we were gonna set it up, you were having some drama online with Alona, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be the perfect fucking time to talk to Quanah. And then like it fell through. But fuck, I remember I was like watching the stories of you guys going back and forth, and I was like, I hope they're okay.
We're okay now.
Oh my God. Isn't it crazy how, like, when you and I first met back in the clubs, like Facebook was just starting, but drama was like, you had to be there. You didn't like, now you can be out of the club and be fucked up and be pissed off at someone and just like go off online, and then it like doesn't go away.
And then it ends up on Reddit. Then you have to write a song about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, how do you find that's changed? I mean, I
Social
have
media.
well, just like your approach to like nightlife and your place in the social scene. Because when I think about us back then, it was fucking crazy. Like, we went to such extremes, and that was part of, at least for me, what I was trying to create. Like, I wanted to be a fucking crazy club kid. That was my MO. And then I became it, and it was like a little bit too much, and I had to scale back. But I wanted to cause a scene, and that was part of my shtick. And I feel like that's where you and I connected, because we were both like, I don't fucking care what you think. I just want you to think about me and talk about me. And when I was, with Facebook first starting, it was such a great way to capitalize on that. But I don't know if I'm grateful that social media wasn't as prevalent back then, or if I wish that it was, because maybe I could have gone farther. But do you find that because you document everything and people document everything, you're like a little bit more censored now when you go out, and you're like, okay, I gotta like rail it in a little bit? Or do you still go like, I don't give a fuck?
I don't really give a fuck. Let's be honest. No, I don't. But social media definitely has been interesting to see the shift in how it does affect like what we were doing in nightlife and as entertainers. I think through the pandemic, it's been cool to see artists creating in ways that I wasn't seeing before. I never would have thought of. Even myself, some of the shows that I did for like festivals and stuff were like setups and concepts that never would have been even in the realm of what I would have thought of before. And like coming up with these new ways to entertain has been interesting, and utilizing social media to for people really just to get to know me better. And I really treat my Instagram story like my own little reality show, so that people
Yes.
feel like they know me, what I'm doing. Also, because I'm so vain and I'd like to talk about myself.
Honey, yes. I love that. Do you like when you first were going into nightlife, you obviously wanted to be a star. I mean, that was obvious. You are a star. I think that is just part of who you are. But what was there nightlife specifically like when I think back about before I went to the club, I wanted, like I said, I wanted to go be a crazy party animal. Was that something that was appealing to you too about nightlife? Like you wanted to
That
be
was
that?
something that just came naturally to me. I didn't try.
You
I
were
never
born to
thought
party.
consciously of it, you know. I just did it. But honey, I came a long way from doing coke in the Odyssey bathroom.
Honey,
Honey,
honey. Oh,
speaking of which, that was one of my favorite. I remember back in the day, that was one of my favorite Halloween costumes of you. Still so iconic. You dressed as a bag of coke, bitch.
honey. Every year at Halloween, people send it to me. And I've actually seen other people do that costume since, and people send it to me. But I'm like, bitch, that was like 10 years ago. I was so ahead of the fucking Coke bag costume trend, okay? I love that. I was so fucked up that night. Like, I just, that, I like saying that it comes naturally. I wouldn't say that I wanted to like drink a lot and do a lot of drugs necessarily, but I looked up to like Lindsay Lohan, Courtney Love, and cocaine
Tara Reid
specific.
when she was hot,
Oh
or when
my
she was
God,
in
with her
her
boob
prime.
falling out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Um,
still obsessed with Lindsay Lohan, and I don't care what anybody says.
yeah. But did you, so you said like the partying and stuff came naturally to you, but when you moved to Vancouver, did you know you were going to use nightlife as a way to express yourself?
No, I feel like nightlife was. I started clubbing when I was like 15 in Victoria. And I feel like that was one of the, that was around the time I transitioned as well. So it was harder in school for me because I kind of felt like I was living a double life, and going to school, I was more, believe it or not, I feel like I was more quieter, reserved, introverted. And I think it stemmed from not having the confidence that I do now. And nightlife, in a weird way, actually helped me find myself in my footing as to who I am when I was figuring myself out, growing into myself. It helped give me confidence and figure out who I am and realize that there are people that I can relate to outside of school.
Yeah, I had that same experience. I wanted to be in the clubs because I thought that's where you could become famous and that's where you could really, I knew that you could do that there, but I didn't expect how profound nightlife would end up being, like meeting people and being celebrated, like following your passions and it being able to be accessible to people. And then you could go out every night and they were like, yes, like you are doing so fucking cool. And the community attaches itself to your dreams. And it's a really like I don't know, I guess now with social media, but back then nightlife was social media. Like you had to go out every fucking night. I had to go out every night and fucking tell everybody that Peter Breeze was fucking famous. Now you can do that on Instagram, but back then you had to like actually go out every night. It was fucking tiring.
You were, honey.
It's crazy. Like, do you feel like kids like the new generation has it easier now because of social media?
I think in some aspects, like if you want to be in this industry, if you want to be an entertainer, if you want to be on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, it is a lot easier to do that now. And it wasn't as big as a thing then, even for me now. Like I only started using Instagram like when I went to Blanche McDonald. I was like literally the only girl in my class who wasn't utilizing social media like the kids are now these days, honey. So it took me a while to get into the swing of it, but now I really do use it a lot for work, and I've gotten a lot of great opportunities from it, particularly my weed sponsors I enjoy.
I love that. Yeah, I guess you have to use social media as a tool. Like I feel like with Drag Race, when Canada's Drag Race was on, it was the first time I ever watched a reality show. I was like, I don't know if I would want that because the competition itself was
Me
obviously intense. Well, just being on TV and then being thrown into the polarization of social media. Like you see, at first I was like, oh my God, this is great. I know so many of the girls. I'm so happy it's in Canada. But then you see them instantly get thrown into this arena and instantly be judged. And I was like, fuck, that would be hard to deal with.
Yeah, I've seen, some of my friends that have been on the show definitely struggle with social media and everybody having an opinion, and it definitely, there's a lot coming at you. So like a lot of the girls fresh off the show are dealing with so much, like they're keeping that secret for so long,
Yep.
and then they're like instantly famous, and then it's almost like there's a little added responsibility that's kind of unspoken that goes with it as like a role model or whatever. So I know Ilona really had a hard time with some like backlash and stuff from social media and feeling like bullied or whatnot.
Yeah. And
So
that
it
kind of,
is a double-edged sword.
it is totally. I mean, you can create your own following, but then when you get thrust into that platform, there's no training. I talked to Mike Yerxa about this. When somebody's getting ready to go on TV, there's no rule book. Like you can't really prepare for the mental health component of becoming overnight famous and on social media. And because it's a competition show, people feel completely okay judging you.
Say any fucking thing. Like people will literally say anything, which to me is also very entertaining. Like it's so crazy. It's so funny to me how through social media people feel like they can literally just say anything.
I know. Yeah,
Which
well, they're
I always
hiding
have
behind a
anyways,
keyboard.
but it's funny to see it in other situations.
I remember people used to say shit about me like in the comments on Extra West, but like I said, it
I
wasn't the
know, I
or
remember that. I remember one time I did this article and everyone was coming for me, and they had to shut down the comment section.
Oh my God.
I was like, they're being transphobic, take them down.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And now like, it's become like the wild, wild west of like being able to hate on people. But again, if people are fucking commenting and hating on you, it only serves a purpose. Like haters make you famous. That is true. The more they talk about you, the bigger you are. So, I
Well,
mean,
I
it is
remember
what it
actually
is.
being like, at least they're talking about me.
Yes. Do you still feel like that? At least they're talking about me, even if it's something bad?
No, now I don't want them saying bad shit about me. I have worked very hard, from back in the day being like strictly a party girl and a performer to now, like I just finished doing, like I literally just got off the call speaking as a panelist for the BC Federation of Labor and Human Rights Forum. And, I work with kids, I work in film. There's a lot more aspects to what I do now. So I feel like I've grown a lot from those times. I feel like I'm a lot more responsible and I have a lot more going on. So I don't really like to associate with that so much.
Was
I
there
mean,
a turning?
I still party girl, but not like
Yeah.
I used to. And I just have so much other going on now that I don't want that to be my focus. Or
So was there a turning point for you where you were, because did you like being like the Davy Street Disaster is what you used to call yourself? Did you like that
I didn't call
cultivating?
myself that. Other people called
You
me
had
that.
a fucking song called that, bitch.
I only wrote the song because they were saying it.
Okay, fine. But did you enjoy being that infamous person?
I didn't care.
You didn't care. And
No.
then now you're saying you don't want people to
But I
like,
feel like before I was known, like when I was coming up, I feel like I was known more for just partying. And I
yes.
feel like now I'm known for like my music, my
Yep.
acting, my activism.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a difference in you. Like it's cool to see your journey from like the party girl to who you are now, because when I was thinking about your introduction, I was like, I don't really know how to describe Quanah because you do so many things now and you are in the media a lot. Like you are a musician, you got great music videos, you had that Wow Presents series, which I remember when you posted that fucking picture, bitch, and it was like you were in front of the green screen and you checked in at Wow Presents. I was like, what? When did that happen? And you were like with James St. James and you guys sent me a selfie and I was like, how is Quanah in Hollywood? Like, what the fuck? It was so cool. How did that show come about?
The World of Wonder show happened through, okay, so Raja Sachan was married to my best friend at the time, Ryan Paul Turner, who was on the show with me. So when Raja was on tour and stuff, when Ryan was in LA, I used to go stay at their house all the time. Raja actually adopted me as her
Wow.
daughter. We're not very close now, like since they divorced, but so that was how I got the show actually, because Raja works with World of Wonder for her toot and boot and stuff. And actually, you want to know the real tea? What happened was we were out this one night partying with like all these girls from Top Model, the All-Stars, like Lisa D'Amato and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't want to leave this party. And they're like, we're going to the Boulet Brothers party downtown. And I was like, I want to stay at this party, because I was such a fan of Top Model. And I couldn't believe I was hanging out with all of the girls. So it was just such a fun night. Like, that's what's so wild about LA, like the things that can happen. I think it's one of my favorite places. Like, one night we ended up at like Diane von Furstenberg swimming in her pool with like Gia Gunn, and like just so much crazy shit happened.
Oh my God.
Back to the story. Let me focus here. We were out. So then we go to the Boulet Brothers party, and Ryan was like, Quanah, be nice to this guy. I'm like, I'm always nice. Like, what do you mean? And it's like a circuit party. So there's like 200 guys on the dance floor. Everybody has their shirts off. And I'm like, okay, be nice to this guy. So, you know, we're keying, girl. We're cutting up. We're having some fun. And then at the end of the night, around like 6 in the morning or whatever, they're like, oh, I'm going to get an Uber. I was like, I'll go out for a smoke. And then this guy is like, you're the one that went, you're like, we partied throughout the night or whatever. And he was like, you went to Mexico recently, right, with Ryan, and you filmed everything, right? And I was like, yeah, I filmed everything. So actually, I filmed everything on my own from that show, because I had just taken a film program about 3 months before I finished. So I thought I was going to do a YouTube channel on my own or a documentary. And so I didn't know what I was filming. I just filmed it knowing that I wanted to document everything that was happening, because it was such a big monumental part of my life. And when I was looking at stuff online, I felt like a lot of the surgeries were glamorized a little bit. I feel like I was like, it can't be that fucking easy, girl.
Yeah.
So I wanted to document like the real, what it was really like going through that. Anyways, I was like, yeah, we start talking, and turns out he's one of the producers, Pete, from World of Wonder.
Wow.
And then he was like, can you come for a meeting in like 3 days or something? Do you have the footage? I was like, yeah, I happen to have the footage. So the day of the meeting, we ended up the night before we went out. And I was like, I can't make this meeting. I was like, lots of people just talk shit. Like, I don't really want to go. And Ryan's like, no, this is Pete. Like, we have to go to World of Wonder. I'm like, okay, so we get to World of Wonder, and I walk in, and it's just so cool, because like when you walk into the doors of World of Wonder, there's like all the photos of everybody, and like they also, I didn't know that they did like they did Nicole Richie's reality show, Courtney Love's reality show, like things, like all these other things that I don't really relate to World of Wonder until I walk in and you see everything. And as soon as I walked in, fucking James St. James was like, I got into the office, and they're like, he's like, oh my God, hey, Quanah girl. And so the backstory for knowing James St. James was Peter did a party and brought James St. James down to screen Party Monster at the Rio Theater in Vancouver, and we partied with him till he K-holed and took out his teeth. So I didn't think he would remember me, right? I was like, there's no, and so she's like, Quanah, and then the craziest thing was from that night, somebody gave him fan art that we all signed. And look, in his office, he took it off and was like, look, your signature is on the back of this. And then he looked at Pete and he said, she's World of Wonder. Like, she's, and then we sat down for the meeting, and they're like, we just had a meeting and your show just got approved.
It's so fucking cool.
And then I think they had the footage for a while, and then I went back to LA and did the green screen interviews for it.
Yeah.
And I wish actually about that, I wish that I did, I didn't know it was going to be on World of Wonder, and I didn't really have a say in any of the editing, but I wish that I wore makeup at the beginning, because like it just starts off like we were hungover. We started drinking tequila like when we got up, and then we went to Mexico. And when I got to Mexico, I didn't know I was going straight for blood work and shit. Like, so I was lit. Like, went off the plane, went to go get blood work, and the ball was rolling then, honey.
I think it's good though that like you said, you wanted to show the reality of what those surgeries are like. And I think if you would have known going into it, it was going to be a WoW Presents series, maybe you would have been more edited.
Yeah, it was definitely very raw. Like, I hated the scenes when I was like wasted drunk dancing around, and like, some of the stuff I don't like personally. I feel like other people like to watch, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think your spirit is like that you evoke that kind of party, like that energy of like, it doesn't matter, have fun, be who you are. And I think if you didn't do that, then people would feel like they couldn't do that. And part of your role in the community has always been like, own your shit, like be who you are and be fearless and
And
go after the thing.
unapologetic about it. I really
Yeah.
feel like I've lived my life like as an open book because I really, it sounds corny, but I really do want to help create a better acceptance and understanding of what it means to be trans, because growing up, there was nobody like me in mainstream media that I could look to, relate to, connect with. And even still now, it's hard to see myself reflected in mainstream media, but it's been really cool with shows coming out like Pose, Trickster for Indigenous representation, movies like Monkey Beach. It's actually inspiring me, you know, as an actor to see roles and opportunities come up for people like me now. It's inspiring to know that they are out there. Right before COVID hit, I was starring in a play Transcripts, and then right
Yeah.
after I was supposed to do 2 more plays and then start starring in my first feature film role as the lead. Then I was supposed to be on fucking tour. Oh, I'm just telling you what I was doing before COVID. And then I was supposed to be touring in Berlin for a month and then Australia for a month. So COVID really did derail a lot of things for me. So I cannot wait for this next year.
Yeah, I really felt for everybody who's still connected to nightlife to and like what COVID has done to your ability to like make money and hustle and get out there is really, really crazy. But why do you think out of the people in the community you've been able to rise above and stay relevant, people still want you at the parties, you're still getting booked, you're in the media. What do you think it is about you that people are not tired of? They still want to see over and over and over again.
I think because I'm so stunning and beautiful and people just like to look at me. I don't know what it is about me. I just kidding. I think people, I don't know what it is about me. People just want to get me drunk and party with me, honestly. And
Honey,
I think
yes.
honestly that I'm a really great performer. Toot, bitch. Like, I don't see anybody making music like me, doing what I do. Or, you know, I think that over the years, I've just gained a level of respect that I had to earn. And I feel like once I have the respect, I have their love.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that you make people feel safe by going to extremes and being like, it's okay. You mentioned that, you know, growing up, you didn't have anybody in pop culture to look to. Who did you turn to then in pop culture? Like, was there any icons that you were like, you're not exactly like me, but you're close enough that I'm gonna channel you?
Well, one of my first idols was Tina Turner. In elementary school, I probably like I can quote that movie verbatim. Like I don't know, Tina Turner was an inspiration for me, and you know, someone who struggled with abuse as a child and stuff. I really looked at her as a beacon of light and inspiration for me. And movies like Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken was one of my favorite movies about the diving horse girl who continued to dive blind. You know, Sonora Webster's The True Story. If you haven't watched it, watch it. There's a book. So I was related to real life stories. Buffy St. Marie was an inspiration for me. And then later in life, I was introduced to Amanda Lepore probably when I was about 13. And then she was a big inspiration and an icon for me. And she really inspired me, and she still does. I really love her. I'm like happy to call her a friend now, and we've got to work together a lot over the years. So she was a big influence on me as well.
Do you feel like now pop culture is getting better at representation? And do you feel like it's moving in the right direction?
I feel like it's slowly but surely moving in the right direction. Again, like shows like Pose are so incredible. There's so many amazing trans actors now that are famous and people know their names. Whereas 10 years ago, couldn't name many people.
You know, when I first met you in the clubs, I was still confused about the difference between drag and trans. Like I remember asking you those questions in the bathroom stall of the Odyssey, Hanny. And even being a part of the gay community, the queer community, it was still like, what does it mean to be trans? And I feel like, you know, those stories are becoming more prominent and there's still a lot of confusion. Caitlyn Jenner coming out was huge because it was just like such a prominent family being thrust, and the trans storyline was just suddenly in the mainstream media. Give her, I mean, some people like Caitlyn, some people don't, but do you feel like
She's not really
people,
cool. I feel like it was cool to see, you know, like the Kardashians have somebody trans in their family, because I think
yeah,
even if people don't like Caitlyn, I think it does help normalize it a bit in society, and especially because they're the fucking Kardashians. So I think Caitlyn transitioning is good for people like me, and it did bring a conversation to the table
Yeah,
in you know, like Good Morning America and everything like that was covered. It
exactly.
was opening that dialogue that I think is important.
In a lot of ways, Bruce Jenner was the perfect person to transition because he was like this athlete.
Stereotypical, like
Yeah,
Olympian, like on the Frosties box and shit. So that was
totally.
I think part of it is cool. I don't
I
relate
want
to it though.
I want you to be on a fucking cereal box, bitch.
So do I, shit.
Yeah, I think, yeah, how crazy it is that the Kardashians ended up having Caitlyn and their family is unreal. When it comes, how old were you when you started transitioning?
I think that maybe between 13 and 15.
Okay. There
And I
is
think I
like,
probably transitioned by the time I was like 15, and then it was hard with school. I also was, I went to, I think when I was about 15, I was like, okay, so solid in what I needed. What do I need to, what steps do I need to do to get there? And I studied all the HBIGDA standards of care for general practitioners. So I knew what they were legally entitled to do for me. I had read a lot. I did a lot of research and looked, you know, as much as I could at that point. I transitioned at a weird time. The gender clinic was shut down there. I was also living in Victoria. There wasn't a lot of resources, and I had to see this specialist who was like, you know, pay like $150 a week or whatever to make sure you're not crazy so that we can help you on this journey. And I really thought that they were going to like hold my hand and help me walk down this path. And it wasn't like that. It was a lot of closed doors. They actually told me once I was diagnosed, I had to go through with my parents and everything each year of memories of my life, and I didn't remember how much of it I had blocked out,
what?
how much of it was traumatizing for me, you know, growing up in the wrong body and so many being bullied, stuff like that. So much of the things I didn't even realize how much I had blacked out as a way, I think, to protect myself. So when I had to look back at these memories and think of each year, it was really hard because a lot of the memories I feel like I buried down. So that was hard. And then they were like, okay, so we think this is a phase and you should keep paying $150 a week until you're 18. And I was 15 at that point. So that completely broke my heart and devastated me. And
Uh,
so I actually did detransition at one point after I found that out. Because they were like, I was
what?
like, okay, this is going to happen for me. And then they were like, no, not like, I don't know. So I almost gave up. I remember I stayed in bed for a week, like crying. And I was like, this is the people that are supposed to help me. They're supposed to get it, and they don't get it. What do I do? And I
Oh
felt
my
like I was in
God.
a waiting room waiting to live my life. And so that's when I left high school in Victoria and I moved to Edmonton. I had a friend that transitioned in Edmonton and they had an easier time in Alberta. And they were like, come to Alberta. And I knew nobody there. My mom was there. I had lived in Edmonton probably years before, but I was like grade 8 or something. So I didn't keep in touch with people between that point and then. So it was really, I really rolled the dice and I was like, this is just what I have to do for myself. Didn't
Wow.
particularly want to be in Edmonton, but if that's what I had to do, that's what I had to do. And then when I got there, they were like, oh, by the way, yeah, so there's a waiting list, maybe a year or two. And then you have to see the doctor for a year. And then you have to have 2 referrals. But luckily, I feel like I've always been very resourceful. So I didn't really take no for an answer. I started volunteering at the Pride Center in Edmonton. And they had trans groups for some of the girls who were working the streets and stuff like that. And I was always in their ear, like, who's doing your hormones? Who are you talking
Yeah.
to? And I knew of there was one main doctor to see in Edmonton. And there was another doctor who I found out through the girls that were coming into the center that was really old, semi-retired, not seeing anybody. And I bugged him for probably 3 months straight. I befriended all of the girls and had them each go to bat for me at their appointment saying, you need to see Quanah, you need to see Quanah. And I was volunteering as a receptionist, befriending these girls, trying to get in this doctor's ear. And I called every week until he saw me. And then the first time I saw him, I got my prescription for my hormones.
I can't imagine knowing who you are and feeling so strongly that there are things you need to do to live more authentically and having to prove that to people.
No, it like that. It really was. It was shitty. It was really hard. Like when I think about, especially somebody with maybe a weaker personality type than I have, having to go through that is really harsh, and that's why the statistics are so crazy and sad for people
Yeah.
transitioning and stuff like that. It really is crazy to see. But you know, like our friend Berlin, who was one of my daughters at one point, is transitioning, and you know, it
I
is
know.
beautiful to see like how much smoother of a transition she's having, how the times have changed, how many more options and resources she has now. So that's been really actually beautiful and inspiring to see from an outsider's perspective, from somebody who's lived it back in the day.
Agreed. I do think that there's a difference between like me knowing your journey as I have and then seeing somebody like Berlin. How smooth is the perfect way to describe it. Like it's like one day you come out as trans and then it's like a couple months later there's a visible change and there's that authentic transition that you need physically. Because it's so much more prominent now and there's a lot of dialogue about being trans in the media, a lot of kids younger and younger and younger are feeling more comfortable coming out, and there's a lot of criticism about that, like, you know, people saying you can't, these kids are not old enough to make these medical decisions. What do you think about that?
I think that if a kid knows who they are at a young age, they should be celebrated and supported. And you can try to, if somebody knows who they are, like that means I would give those parents so much props because you're doing something right, that you're raising a kid that knows who the fuck they are at a young age. And it really is inspiring to see kids, to see that change in society. And, you know, clearly surgery is something that has to be taken very seriously, not lightly, and definitely not for kids that are not done growing. I know that sometimes the surgical procedures can be, like Jazz Jennings, for example, I follow her.
Yep.
Jazz had done, been on her hormones and testosterone blockers, which affected her surgery outcome. So that was harder. So I would think that's where my mind went, like making sure that you develop enough to ensure that your surgery can be successful and so you don't have complications and stuff, which I've seen happen sometimes when younger kids have had surgery. I think that was one of the first times actually in her case that that happened, because she didn't fully develop, and then when she had the surgery she
Wow.
had complications from it. So that would be a concern, but definitely not a concern in them living their truth, or you know, being able to wear what they want to school, feeling supported and validated in their identity is important.
I think there's such a huge difference too, to be like, I support you, whatever you identify as is okay, like as a parent, and we need to wait until you're done growing to do the surgery, but whoever you are is okay, and we'll get there when we get there, is such a
And I totally
positive
support the
message.
blockers. Like I wish that I had blockers when I was a kid. I know that it would be so much easier um, to have had that support earlier in my life, and as well for other girls transitioning. So, but it is cool to see people feeling comfortable and knowing the differences in gender pronouns and identity. Like my little sister is like 11 and she's like a trans advocate. Basically, she's always
Oh,
posting about so much stuff about non-binary. You know, I watch my little sister's Instagram feeds, and they're very kind of outspoken about it and supportive of it. And it's so cool to see like their little cis straight girls in Victoria and how they talk to their friends about it is so cool to see. It makes me proud.
yeah, I love that. It's so cool to see the younger generation taking advantage of like the people who came before them. I love, like, when I read about trans stories, I feel like there's something innately spiritual about like identifying as something that is not physically seen by other people. Like, you know that there's a part of you that's inside that needs to get out, and it reminds me of like, you know, it's a kind of self-actualization, but like when you are growing up and you're just a young kid and you're like, I am something other than what I see in the mirror. That is such a wild experience. I can only imagine. The only thing I can relate it to, and it's not even comparable, is like going into the clubs and creating the person that you want to be and being bright and colorful and outrageous and fearless, and then having that manifest in reality, which starts as an intention and then it comes, is so fucking powerful. And I think being trans is like the ultimate expression of that, of like telling people who you are, channeling it, and then bringing it out.
And I also think trans individuals are some of the strongest people that you'll ever meet, you know, like having to fight to be who you are, and not, you know, being sure of yourself, fighting for, not backing down, not giving up. You know, there's so many admirable strengths that I think trans people embody.
Yeah, I think you are one of the strongest people I know. And you know what, Quanah, honestly, when I've been watching you, because I haven't been in the club scene for years now, and when I watch you, I'm so impressed by two things. One is that you've managed to stay in the game and relevant without burning yourself out. Because when I look back, I'm like, how the fuck is that possible? And two, now that I'm talking to you, you seem so much more balanced and grounded than you have in the past. And part of that is just growing up. We were kids and now we're not. But how do you achieve that balance of like, I still fucking party and I stay out till dawn sometimes, and I'm a serious artist, and you need to see both sides of that. How do you fucking do that?
Well, COVID made it easier, but also it's priorities. You know, like I still like to party, but I know some people that the partying can affect their goals or their life. And I've always been so goal oriented and career driven, and that really is my priority over partying. So I think that's the difference. Like if your first priority is partying, then that's gonna fuck you up. But I feel like it has been a platform or stepping stone, I'll say.
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it. It's something that you use to your advantage to propel you forward. Going back to the trans representation in the media, it is becoming more prominent, but I still know people in my life who are still extremely scared of the process of like just identifying first to themselves and then maybe to their close circle that maybe they are in the wrong body or they are trans. What do you suggest for people who are struggling and, you know, see somebody like you or Berlin on social media and know that there is a way to live more authentically, but they're too caught, they're like, it's a prison. They don't
I
know how to
think that
articulate
you
it.
really need to just remember that we all have an inherent value as human beings. We're all worth the same, and you can't really care what anybody else thinks. You have to reassure yourself, basically. Because I remember, like, something that people don't see now that I really struggled with when I transitioned was actually being in public. Like, when I was 15, 17, leaving the house gave me severe anxiety. I would have a lot of panic attacks. I didn't like going to school. So it did affect my life in negative ways, you know? And then the main thing that changed that, I think, was my confidence. So, you know, it sounds cliche, but honestly, like confidence goes so far. And it's like, if you believe you can do something, you can do something. If you don't believe you can do something, you won't be able to do it.
Was there a turning point for you that you can pinpoint when you were like not confident and then you became confident?
It definitely wasn't something that happened overnight. I think it was I think for me, I had that validation through my gender confirmation surgery. And it wasn't even
Mm,
something that people could see. It was validating myself in my own identity, made me stronger in who I am, which made me more confident.
right. When you, now that you, like I said, you do so much, you keep yourself busy, even during COVID, you're like, still got shit going on. Are you like, is there a specific image in mind or an idea of what you're working towards, like a pinnacle of success or a creative pinnacle, like you want to win an award or you want to be on a show? Like, is there something specific that you think about all the time that you're working towards?
I just think that I want to I do want to act more. Like I said, like before COVID, I felt like I got on this role where I was like, I want to do this. And I worked really hard on it, you know, and I felt like I was finally seeing it starting to pay off and getting these opportunities, and COVID fucked it up. So hopefully those things will come back around. Yeah, hopefully those things will come back around. I would like to act more and be taken seriously. I would love to do a dramatic role. I would love to be a series regular. And I would like to play different characters that are more challenging and dramatic. So yeah, because I know I'm like outgoing and funny or whatever in person, like my personality is very out there. So I would love to be an opportunity to play grittier roles.
I remember when I was an agent and all of the trans roles were prostitutes. And like,
How many times I got offered to go, or how many times I remember that show Psych. I had like I think like 4 callbacks for or
I
something. They're like,
remember.
we absolutely love you, but then we want you. We just have one note. Can you drop your voice to represent real trans women or something? And I was like, I
What?
dead ass walked out like at the big studios in North Bend. Like they said that to me in person, and I was like, I am a real trans woman. I have never spoken like that. And I don't even know, I don't remember what I said, but I snapped and walked out. And I was like, you can't pay me enough to deal with this shit.
Was that an audition that I sent you to?
I don't know. I don't think
Oh
so.
my God. Oh God, that's so bad. But that just shows like how fast times are changing and how even like 5, 10 years ago, that's what it was. They didn't understand what it meant to be trans, and the fact that they told you to be a real trans person is like, oh, grrr.
Yeah. Right? To lower your register to represent real trans woman.
Yeah. You
Fucking
were,
wrong thing to say to me. Didn't book that.
oh my God. I remember when, or I don't remember, you were in the CBC series about drag queens. What is it called? Drag
Canada's
artists.
a Drag. I was on season 2.
Canada's a drag. And so I remember seeing that, and I guess not surprised, because when I look back, you obviously do drag and I've seen you do that. But it was interesting to me that like a trans woman doing drag, I'd never heard you describe yourself as a drag performer before. In fact, I think I remember the opposite of you being like, I'm not a fucking drag
I
queen.
was against that. Back in the day, like most girls would start as drag, transition. Like usually that's like I'm generalizing it, but I know a lot of girls who started doing drag, transitioned, stopped doing drag, or some of them have continued. Like Jaylene is an amazing trans woman, have always been an integral part of the drag community and of our communities, like pillars of our community, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, honestly, I feel like I always identified as a singer because when I was younger, before I transitioned and stuff, I wasn't performing. I don't consider what I was doing drag at that point. And I feel like when I was figuring out my identity and who I am as a trans woman, it was confusing for other people, or like where I'm from up north. When I was transitioning, people just thought I was always in drag or whatever. So to me, it was like I was like asserting myself that I wasn't doing drag back then, because I don't think I was. Like, I don't consider what I was doing drag. I really feel like when I really started embracing that more is after I went to makeup school and started playing with my looks and incorporating more elements of drag into what I do as an artist and performer, as an entertainer. I don't consider myself somebody who started as a drag artist.
Love it. Love it.
And also it's marketable for me.
I know. I was like, you didn't identify as a drag queen until they're like, do you want to be in a show about drag queens? Like, I am a drag queen.
Yeah,
I am a drag queen. Would you do Canada's Drag Race?
I would be scared to. I feel like everything that I do, I would be worried about how I might come off, or if I would be the diva or the bitch.
Oh my God, of course you'd be the diva.
Your bookings that are outside of drag. So that definitely crosses my mind. Also, if I had the opportunity and the platform, I wouldn't say no.
Yeah. Are you motivated by being famous?
I'm motivated by being successful. I think back in the day, I did want to be famous, and I didn't know how I wanted it or what that meant. Do you know what I mean? But now I know who I am, and I know that I am an amazing artist. Like, I'm an artist. So I just want platforms to continue to showcase what I'm capable of doing, and then rubbing it in everyone's face.
Honey, I think you would be great on like a reality show of any kind. World of Wonder was close, but when I saw you on CBC for Canada's a Drag, I was like, I wonder if she's gonna go for Drag Race, like Quanah style on Drag Race. What did you think of the show?
I think that would be great. I think a lot of people would, if I did that, a lot of people I think would be shocked and surprised. And I don't know, it's really interesting. It's hard to see myself in, when I see, like my drag daughter Ilona was on the show, my sister Scarlett. So to see them on the show has been really cool, like a dynamic, because that show is one of my favorite shows generally. And then, I've worked with girls from the show or whatever, but to have your family on the show and be like sending them off, and like I was there when Bobo left, stuff like that. So it's like being really an interesting dynamic to see. And the show has been interesting as well, because some of the girls who were known for as like the higher top girls on the show wasn't really like that.
I know.
So it would be an interesting dynamic. I'm definitely curious to see how I would handle it. I would worry about being a diva or not wanting to do certain things. Like, 'cause
Yeah,
when I want to do something, I won't do it. So, like, same with like when I think about like Big Brother or something, I'm like, could I do that? And I was like, I don't think I would do certain things. So then you can't really play the game if you don't want to do everything. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Because once you show up and you start filming, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever happens. Like you either go in and do it full out or you storm out. But I mean, oh my God, if you went on Canada's Drag Race and stormed out, I mean, iconic. You would just be like, that would almost be better. What do you think of like the new generation of like queer pop stars that are coming up, like Kim Petras, Troye
I love
Sivan?
Kim Petras. It's so cool to see her in mainstream media. Like I said, they were so underrepresented that when we have an icon like her come along, like feel like we really value her, and it's cool to see how appreciated she is and loved by our community and now by everybody else too.
Yeah.
And she's an amazing writer. Like, I really respect talent, and yeah, she's very talented.
You did something with her, or you were around her, weren't you? Scarlett opened for her. Was it you or Scarlett?
Kim Petras.
Yeah.
I think that was Scarlett.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love Kim Petras. I remember when I saw her on World of Wonder. I had no idea she was trans. I had no idea who she was, and her music is so fucking catchy. And she had fucking Paris Hilton in like her first music video.
Which was so
How?
iconic. I know. But no, she's really cool. It's been cool to see what she's done with her career, and she actually does a really good live show, which I miss. I miss live shows. I can't wait for
Ugh.
the shows to come back. Like,
How are,
where my
yeah.
phone sucks, I don't think I'm that girl. But I did really like during. I was lucky that I was able to work through the pandemic actually. Like, I got to
Yeah,
see.
how do you find like the digital performances? Do you like them?
No, I
Like,
hate it. I think it's really annoying to perform to your phone. But some of the cool things I did get to do through the pandemic was working with like the Transform Festival, and like I did a Music BC show with Snotty Nose Res Kids, stuff like that, that were pre-taped, but still live shows that were pre-taped. I like doing that, especially when I was given budgets to come up with concepts and stuff like that. Like one of them, I did, I think like a 40-minute set, and at the end of every song, I'd clap my hands, and when I clap my hands, they'd flip the screen like this. When it flipped back around, I was in a different outfit.
oh my God, I love that.
So like,
That's so fucking
when else would
cool.
I be able to do that, right? So that was cool.
Do you think that like how do you think this is going to affect performances moving forward? Like now that drag performers and people like you are used to, or are not maybe not used to, but are comfortable doing these online performances, do you think some people will stick to that and not go back to clubs?
I think some of them will, but definitely when we're allowed to, you know, those queens are going to be banging on those doors, honey, fighting for those bookings.
Oh my God. What do you think of the anti-maskers? I've been seeing some videos of the Vancouver, the Vancouver. Are you an anti-masker?
Fuck no.
Okay, good.
Oh my God, no.
Once
No,
you looked at me and I was like, oh
I'm
God, what
not.
did I just
Actually,
do?
one of my friends, who I don't know if I can spell this to you. I'll say it.
Yes.
I oh no, maybe I shouldn't.
Don't
Okay,
just fucking say it.
one of my writers I was working with, I'm like checking his Instagram one day. He is like all like stand with us, like fucking blah blah. I was literally like, Scarlett, we can't work with them anymore.
It's crazy.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I just don't understand that. Oh my God, actually funny story. So I live in Yaletown now.
Okay,
And
you do?
this was, I know, whoever thought I'd be a Yaletown girl.
Yeah.
I was actually on my way to a protest that my brother Jeff was organizing for the pipelines. And I left my house and I'm going to go to the SkyTrain. But when I get to this SkyTrain, there's this woman walking out and she has signs. I don't read the signs. I'm like, are you going to the protest? And she's like, yes, but not realizing we're talking about different protests. I said, I thought it was on Commercial and Broadway. She's like, it's at the art gallery. I'm going now. Come with me. I'm like, okay. This white woman and me just walking, we're just talking. We're cat-talking about the day. I go with her and I get there and I'm like standing around. I'm like, this is busy. There's like so many people here. And I have a mask on. And I'm like, there's so many people here. I'm looking around. I'm like, where are all of the indigenous frontliners? And I was like, where is everybody I know? And I'm looking around and then somebody comes up, tries to hug me, and they're like, give hugs, not masks. I was like, do not touch me. And then I backed up. I realized what was going on and that I was at the wrong fucking rally. And I was like, how the fuck does this happen? I shouldn't have smoked that blunt before I left the house.
Oh my God, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, so that was the time I ended up at the fucking wrong protest.
It's pretty crazy, like going online and seeing people that you know really personally have views about what's going on that are so out there. I don't want to judge people for like what they believe, but I know I've gone on Instagram and been like, I'm surprised that certain people are anti-maskers or they really believe that COVID is like a government conspiracy. And I've been like,
no, I even have like had cousins say stuff to me, and I'm just always like, well, I don't see you enough to fucking say anything. I'm like,
right. Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy. What, looking back out of all the things you've done, I'm curious if there's like a pin, like something that you look back and you're like, that was really fucking cool. Like one of your favorite projects or performances or moments in your career so
well,
far.
there's been so many. I think performing in Dundas Square is a highlight for me. Getting to open for Biff Naked, for Peaches a
Hmm.
few times. Snotty Nose Res Kids, the World of Wonder show, the CBC show. Oh, there's been so many like amazing opportunities.
It's just one
Like,
long
wow,
highlight.
like, wow, hard to decide, really.
Okay, what about a moment that you were like cringeworthy that was like maybe not what you expected, but you learned a lot?
The World of Wonder show, I feel like, gave me lots of cringeworthy moments. Like when I watched it, I didn't get to say in editing. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh God, what are you doing? So that I didn't really like. I also shot a pilot for a TV show called The Switch that I did with Julie Vu. So
Yes.
we actually did the pilot that got it sent to whatever. When they got the funding or whatever, we were in the show, and then we didn't do the show because we had to do man drag and play our characters pre-transition, which was so
What?
hard for us. Like bind my breast down, put me in man clothes, a wig. I didn't realize how I was preparing myself mentally, but I didn't prepare myself in any other way. So when I had to physically do it, I was like, oh! And like literally, I almost walked off set. Like I don't know.
You love walking off sets.
That I've walked off a few sets, but that particular one was hard for me, and definitely it was hard. It was hard for me in that, and I did learn that I don't really want to do that. Like I was just up for another role recently, and I literally like they was playing a character I would have had to play myself prior to transitioning, and as soon as they said that, I was like, I am not right for this.
Well, the
So
good
it's
thing
good to
about
know a lot of times when you do things you don't want to do or do something and then realize you don't like it, it really helps you know what you like, what you don't, what you will and won't do in the future, and help assert your boundaries.
exactly, it gives you, and I think it takes experience to say no to things
It
because
100%
before
does.
you're just
The
like,
fact that
yes,
I can say
yes,
yes, yes to everything. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
now
then you
I'm
learn to say
definitely
no.
more picky and choosy.
What would you say if people are listening to you or they find you inspiring, they think you're an iconic legend, and you know, they're trying to find a way to live their own dreams and like you have found a way to live it and breathe it like it's your job, you do a lot of different creative outlets and it's taken you a while to find that balance to fully embody what it means to be you, not just a crazy party animal, but as an artist and a woman and as an adult and as somebody who's responsible. And what would you say to somebody who's like on the verge of just beginning and they just think they want to be crazy and they want to be wild and they want to be a star and they have that fucking reckless energy of youth? Like you had it, I had it, and then you go out and you do crazy shit, but they ultimately want to be somewhere similar to where you are. What would you say to them?
You really have to work hard, and I feel like where I got to in my life, in my career, there was nobody ever that was came before me that was ever like, oh, I can be like her. It was like completely self-driven and completely it was completely self-driven, and it was out of belief in myself. Like even still now, what keeps me going is like I just believe in myself, and I feel like I'm destined for bigger and better things, and I want to continuously just keep going. You know, that's the goal, is just to keep working, to keep booking, to keep doing gigs. Like that is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, and I've managed to do it. And it's sometimes if there's not opportunities for you, you have to create them for yourself.
Yes, create your own opportunities. And thank God
Like my
somebody,
music, like nobody was banging down my door asking me to sing. I made my albums happen. I wrote, I worked with people. I think also in this industry, it's so important to surround yourself with people that are better than you, that can help you grow. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't where you are talent wise or whatever, that can actually bring you down. So I think to be mindful and cautious about who you surround yourself with in work and generally, like who you want to give your energy to, what these people bring to your lives. You have to be very mindful about who you surround yourself, the energy that they give to you, what you're getting from it.
Yes, the energy exchange. Keep it
Mhm.
clear. Keep it
Yeah.
peaceful, you know. You know who actually said something very similar to that is Carlotta. She was like, because Carlotta does a great job of keeping the young generation around her. And she said, you have to constantly be connected to what's up and coming, what's fresh, and people who keep you on your toes, not people who just tell you you're amazing, people who push
Mhm.
you to be
That's
bigger and
good too,
better.
though.
What?
I said, that's good too, though.
Yes, you need to have the balance, the yes people and the people who push you. Well, Quanah, thanks so much for fucking coming on my show.
Oh, wait,
Finally.
I'm not done yet. I have something to say. I'm plugging
Uh,
shit,
uh,
bitch.
okay, okay. Sorry, gotta go. Bye.
Okay, so I just have to quickly say I'm working on my new album. It's produced by D. Metz, Darren from Snotty Nose Res Kids. I'm working with Quinton, Frustra. I have so many talented people on this like lineup. JB, the First Lady, Logan Stats, Juno Award winner Murray Porter. Like this lineup, it's my dream album. Everybody that I said yes to, I walked away from the label. I was working with Wet Tracks. That was a ballsy move. It's my first time going independent and like choosing to do what I want to do, focusing on the music I want to create. My first single off that I just shot the music video,
Whoa.
Glow is coming out. I felt like I got to live my 90s rap star
I
video
saw that fucking
day.
picture. It looks amazing.
And then actually before that, it's getting edited right now. Before Glow comes out, Glow will be out, I think, January 1st. And then coming out soon is Where Do We Go From Here? Is
I love that song.
edited and by an amazing person in LA, Miss Brandy. So I just can't wait for this new music. This, you know, like, cause I can't do shows, I'm really focusing on my album. It's gonna be 17 songs. And if you haven't
What?
heard my music, check it out on Spotify. I have around 60 songs on there now.
My favorite song of yours is Beat of My Heart. I still listen to it. It is such a fucking banger. When I first heard that song, I was like, this is it. This is Quanah's, this is the perfect fucking song for you. It was like mainstream, but still very you. And it's so fucking catchy. Thanks, Jem just performed it on her show. It was
What?
so,
I didn't know
yes,
that. Did she know
yes.
the words?
She did. I can't wait to hear your new album. What is it? Is it like super poppy? What does it sound like?
It's a completely new vibe for me. Like my first album was my love letter, my homage to 90s bubblegum pop with a sprinkle of Little Kim. I followed that up with a Savage EP that was a lot raunchier, but I realized it's really hard to get airplay, waking music like Cupcake and stuff like that. I really love, and I love to make music like that. It comes out of me naturally. But this new album is a lot different. It is actually R&B and hip hop, and I will be spitting bars on some of these tracks, honey.
Oh my God, what does that mean, spitting bars?
Rapping.
Love it. Oh my God. And for Glow, like, when is that coming out? Did you just say that? When is it coming out?
Glow, actually, so I know I said I'm going independent, but I did get an offer from a label. So Glow is on, we're negotiating contracts. So I think I'm signing a deal with them for the single. So I can't know what I can say right now, but it will be out hopefully in December.
I fucking can't wait to hear it. It reminded me of Janet Jackson with that, what's that, with Busta Rhymes, where they're all metallic. That's what it
Yeah,
looks
no,
like.
Bobo sent me this meme and it was like, why does every rap star video look like they're inside a cheese grater? And then literally I like one of the shots like that I did in the video, like one of the sets literally looks like that, and we just couldn't stop laughing. But I was like, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I can't wait to have that moment.
I can't wait to see it. I'm so proud of you,
Oh,
Quanah. You're doing so good.
thank you. So where do we go from here? Ilona and Bobo helped me shoot it. We shot that. Actually, when they shot their promo looks at Ilona's studio, I didn't want to go. I was like, I'm staying in, blah, 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 blah. And Ilona was like, you can pull any look you want and we'll help you film something. Like, I think she meant photo shoot, but then I was like, well, we might as well shoot this video. So I did 3 looks. We shot at the studio, and Bobo was sitting on it for probably 4 months before I just sent it to an editor last month. And so that's how that video happened. And then with Glow, everything with Glow was meant to be. Like we did that song and probably wrote it in like an hour and a half, maybe. Like went to Darren's one night, cranked that track out. The videographer I was a fan of, he was reached out, I wanted to work with me. The sets were all done for free, sponsored because
Wow.
Instagram posts. So I feel like everything from this new music is just meant to fall into place naturally. And I think it's all literally because I believed in myself. Like I walked away from a deal being like, I don't want to do what you want to do. I don't want to be a puppet. I want to be in control of my narrative, what I'm saying, what I'm doing. So I was really like, everybody was telling me to do it. My manager, Bobo, everybody was like, take the deal. And I was like, no, bitch. And then luckily everything seemed to work out. So I can't wait for people to see the like new Quanah who's come into her own musically and as a writer.
I think that's fucking awesome. And it's hard for me to believe that somebody thought that they could try and control you. Like, have they met you for more than 5 minutes? That's crazy.
Exactly. And it's funny that I work with them that long, but bye, bitch. I'll have fun over here.
Okay, well, fuck, I can't wait. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you come back soon.
It's been so nice to catch up and see your fucking
I know.
I love you.
Ditto. I love you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Peter.
Bye.